Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Christy and let's get into today's video. There is a YouTuber who is kind of like the super secret internet sleuth. I have only seen parts of some of her, I'm assuming her, I don't know, maybe it's like a fake voiceover account, but her voice is female. Her account where she goes deep on a lot of Dance Moms lore and shows up with receipts. I think a lot of you who are watching probably are familiar with Mac Z Boss, right? We know Mac Z Boss. She's kind of like the Banksy of Dance Moms internet sleuthing, right? I have not watched a ton of her videos. I've seen clips. I know what she does. Honestly, I feel like I'm a little afraid to watch them because, like, I don't know, they feel a little exposing. However, someone left me a comment that she did a video where she was like, these are the questions I would ask the cast of Dance Moms if I could. Well, I'm part of the cast of Dance Moms. Let's see what you got. I went on, I'm gonna link the actual original video below so you can check out that video. And I'm not gonna answer all of them. I wouldn't have time. This video would be like a half an hour. But I'm gonna go through and I screenshotted, I think there was maybe 20 or so that could apply to me. So I'm gonna pick a few random ones. I don't know which ones I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna pick a few random ones. I'm going to answer them to the best of my ability. There are some things that, like, you nosy bees wanna have, you know, all the tea on that I simply can't talk about. I am going to direct you to my podcast with Kelly, Back to the Bar, because we spill a lot of tea on that podcast. And there's a lot of answers to some of these other questions on there as well. Check out the podcast and let's start with some of Mac Z's questions. Were there things on set that you did because you knew it would make interesting television? 100%, absolutely. If any person on that cast tells you any differently, they are not either being truthful with you or not with themselves. Because we all were very aware, especially after season 1, that we were on camera, like we were on a TV show. It's just the same thing as when you are in public versus when you are at home in private. Like, you turn on a certain persona. After season 1, you definitely knew kind of the types of things they were looking for. So I will speak about myself personally. I knew that, yes, I got a lot of different archetypes. Like, I'm for sure the jealous one on the show always, which when you guys are all like, oh, Christy jealous, do you not understand that when you walk into a reality show editing bay, the editors actually have a chart on their wall that tell you what each character is supposed to be. So as they're editing, if there are any little things that they can plop in there to make it seem more like that archetype, they're gonna do it. In big bold letters, it's like, Christy jealous. So anything that they could do to make me look jealous was getting put on Dance Moms. People are taken from being like these fully formed, like well-rounded individuals into like teeny tiny little blips. So it's hysterical sometimes when you see this, and it's frustrating when people are like, oh no, well, Christy's jealous. Of course you think that. That's because we had an entire floor of editors working to make you believe that every week. So there you go, they did their job. Anyway, I digress. So in addition to like being jealous and being Chloe's mom and all of those things, I also knew that I was kind of like the snarky funny one. If there was an opportunity to like say something snarky and funny, I did it because I knew that that was part of my character. Kelly's like the funny ditzy one, so I know she turned it on. Now she might say like, oh no, I don't. Yes, we all do, because the minute the cameras are rolling, we become different, bigger versions of ourselves, if you will. I definitely think that every person on the show would, if they were being completely honest, would say that you did do things because it would make interesting television. Look, I'm pretty boring in real life. Like, every time you see me, I'm sitting in this office, whether I'm doing my podcast or I'm like doing a video. I don't get out much. Like, my hot Friday night last night is I was refinishing a piece of furniture. So would you watch that on TV? No. But if I know a TV camera is rolling and my job is to entertain you, I'm going to be a little bit more interesting. Were you just released from your contract, or did you get something else? Oh, this one is definitely for me. I don't know what that means. Did I get something else? Like, you mean, did they like pay me off, or did I get like a special bonus episode? Because I didn't. No, I was released from my contract and I had to sign a bunch of, legal paperwork. Did I get something else? Oh, yes. Okay, so I think Abby actually spoke out about this and said she thought that in my settlement or my release agreement that there was a clause in there that said I could come back to Dance Moms anytime I wanted. That was absolutely not in my release contract or whatever, but I was a really important storyline of a show that was ultra successful when myself and my daughter were on it, and I made good TV. So could I come back at any time? Probably. They called me all the time, do you want to come back? Do you want to come back? And I was like, nope, not at all. Until season 7, when I went back, and that was more, I will tell that story in Back to the Bar, but that was really Chloe driven. And when I went back in season 7, I went back under completely different terms, or I would have never went back. Or did I get something else? I don't know. I would like to know what you mean by that, but I didn't get anything. Really? Did you feel a lot of pressure to say or do things that you normally wouldn't? I think this one is one for all the moms. 100%, absolutely, without a doubt, because when you are on a reality show, people in real life have an inner dialogue, right? You think things. But on a show, when you're a personality or a character, the audience can't hear what you are thinking. So you are encouraged to say things out loud that you would literally never say out loud so that they can follow your story. Did I feel a lot of pressure? Yeah, I felt a ton of pressure. There were times when there would be no arguing in the studio, and if we wanted to leave at the end of the day, we had to fight with each other so we could go home so our kids could take showers to go to school the next day. For sure, I felt pressure. You have to understand, you see us here, and there's a camera here, and a camera here, and a camera here. Well, behind that camera is a wall of people who are either encouraging you, or they're throwing these things at you to get you upset, or they're telling you things that somebody else said about you. Imagine being taunted on the playground constantly, and you're like, okay, I have to keep my cool, I have to keep my cool, I have to keep my cool. Eventually, at some point, you're gonna lose your cool. So was there pressure? There was all kinds of pressure to say things, of course. And every person on reality is pressured to see this. And the other thing I wanted to point out, this doesn't specifically have to do with Dance Moms, but it has to do with all reality shows. And I only want to point it out because I don't watch a lot of reality, but I'm watching season 3 of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And there's this whole argument between Jessie and her husband about her going to dinner with someone she allegedly had an affair with. But he's really upset with her, and she's crying, and she's like, well, and I could tell what was going on because I've experienced situations like this on camera. She didn't invite him. Production made him come because they wanted to film with him, but it had to have a story point. So the story point was Jessie invited him. So then when her husband's like, you have to promise you're never going to see him again. And she's like, I can't promise that. She can't promise it because she has no control over it because she's on a show. And if he shows up again after she promised it, then she looks like a bigger asshole for promising it to her husband, where if she says, I can't promise it, she looks like a jerk for not being able to promise it. I really felt her frustration in that scene because people watching forget that there are things that the cast takes the heat or the fall for that are producers driving. For instance, when Kelly and I hired a private investigator to investigate Jill's costumes, I didn't do that. Production did it, but they had to be like, oh, Christi and Kelly hired a private investigator. Sure, okay, I hired a private investigator. All right, to investigate costumes. Do you not think I have better things to do with my life? I mean, you might not, because that's what the show has told you for years, but let me ease your worries. I have better things to do. Did the producers used to brief you before you started filming for the day? Absolutely. The producers have to brief you so that you know what you're supposed to talk about. Because I could walk in there and be like, oh, my cat murdered a bird this morning, and I don't have sweeper lines in my carpet, and oh my God, did you see that show last night? And they're like, that's not good TV. Producers brief you, and they basically tell you what is going on that day that you need to talk about. Now, they don't tell you all of the dirt at all. because they want real reactions, but they kind of give you an idea of what the major story points are that they're following. So if you pay attention, and it happens in every show, there is an A, a B, and a C storyline. Like if you're involved in the A storyline for the week, they're gonna be like, okay, Christy, you're mad about Chloe Solo. Okay, Chloe Solo she's going up against Maddie for the 800th time. That's the A story of the week. The B story is we're gonna see candy apples again, and the C story is that Broadway Baby's stuffed and coming back to the studio for the first time. There is specific conversations that need to happen on camera to tell those stories each week. Now, they wouldn't say, here's the A, B, and C story at all. They would be like, okay, when you sit down today, I really want you to focus on if Chloe's solo has good choreography. And I would be like, okay, so Chloe's solo is clearly gonna have bad choreography. You could kind of tell where the story was going based on what they were telling you in those meetings. That was your opportunity to kind of like voice your concerns. Not that anybody listened, but you had to be careful, because if you said something that they weren't aware of that was happening behind the scenes, that's when it would happen. Like they would turn around and use that against you, like, on set. So you had to kind of like watch what you were doing. But it was also really good if you wanted to kind of like get the heat off of you, and you could be like, okay, well, listen, this is going on with me, but let me tell you what's going on with these two over here. And then maybe they would follow that story and leave you alone. It's a good technique. Did you ever see producers talking to the judges or writing on their score sheets before awards? I may have seen a producer talking to a judge, but that didn't mean that anything was going on corrupt. Sometimes they would just say like, okay, there's a story over here going on. I don't know if I ever saw a producer talking to judges. I would see producers talking to the owner of the competition, which made sense because the owner of the competition would usually be on camera that week, and they might need to know, like, okay, we're gonna talk about this, you're on camera here, or, this is the big thing, can you make this announcement on stage? But as far as producers talking to judges, did I see a producer talk to a judge? I'm sure I did at some point, but that didn't mean that anything like super scandalous was going on. It just meant maybe that somebody was asking a question or had, needed something clarified, but not in the sense of why did that person beat that person? Maybe it was something like they got a special award and do you want to go on stage and present that? Like something more like that. Writing on their score sheets before awards. Did I ever see a producer writing on a score sheet? No, under no circumstances did I ever see that. I'm telling you guys, it's so funny that everyone thinks that the competitions were rigged. If the competitions were rigged, we would have lost more because they wanted us to lose, because when we lost, we had things to fight about. When we won all the time, it was boring. So there's this huge thing that like producers change scores. Not to my knowledge, at least not while I was there. That's all I'm gonna say. I did see people trying to talk to judges, but it wasn't the producers, it was other cast members. Well, I know Maxie Boss has other questions that she posted. So if you want me to answer the rest of those, you want to see a part 2 of this video, please comment below. Let me know what question you would ask the cast if you could about the show. And I will see you back here next week. Bye.